Oh,
Happy
yeah.
New Year! Happy New
Crack.
Year! We made it.
Yes.
We
I've
made
been
it.
waiting for this.
Yeah, man. We made it to another year. The world has not come to an end yet, even though they keep telling us that every year is about to be the last one. So at least we're making it into 2019, which is awesome. I can
I
neither
shall
confirm
finish
nor
the
deny
game.
it'll end. Maybe at least we can finally beat this game before the world comes to an end, right?
Yes. I
So we're
shall
going
finish
for
the
it.
game. You know what that
Yeah.
quote is from?
What is that from?
Really? You don't remember it?
I don't remember.
It's
What is
obscure. It's an obscure quote. Young Guns.
Okay. See, I also
Yeah.
like there. I like there that you tried to shame me for a second because you were like, "Really, motherfucker? You don't remember that?" And then you immediately followed up by being like, "No, it's an obscure quote." I'm like, "Well, then what? Why are you making me feel like a dick? Because I don't
No,
remember
no,
it."
well, no. It's just the way you said it. I thought you recognized it, so I thought you were fucking with me.
No. Yeah, Young Guns, awesome movie. That is a
Yeah.
great quote for this, our brand new. Well, I guess it's not new anymore. We've been doing this for a little while, but
Yeah.
our one of our newest forays into the multimedia conglomerate that we were building out of the Live from the Man Cave event, the Ready Player 2, which is our kind of streaming games together and talking about them and basically just getting drunk while we have a good time. When we don't get a chance to record the podcast, we play some games. So we're kind of dipping into everything now, I guess.
Yeah.
We're all over the place. We're almost like a James Bond villain at this point. We're like kind of we're touching on everything. At a certain point, we're gonna be like, also we've taken over your energy grid, and now James Bond, come find us, motherfucker. I
It's
guess
the start of the
that's what we're doing.
franchise.
This is how it happens.
That's how we roll.
This is the origin story, is what you're saying? This is the origin story to
Yes,
when Live from the Man Cave
exactly.
goes evil?
Yes, this is right before Cyberdyne.
Right. Perfect. All right. Well, this is it. This is Ready Player 2. We are in the middle of playing our playthrough of Detroit Become Human, which, for those of you, if you are new to what's happening right now in this origin story of our villain in the making, what we've been doing, Detroit Become Human. Jess has already played through this game, and so what we're doing now is CraigMakk, I'm playing through it myself right now. You are kind of going along for the ride with me, and then what we'll do is
I'm like your Sherpa on this journey.
Yeah, you're basically just making me feel bad about every decision I make. You're like, really want to do that?
I'm riding
really
it, mate. You have to carry me around in like one of those little like man sacks on your back.
Right.
And then I'm like sitting there drinking a beer. I'm like, go that way, CraigMakk.
Right, and every once in a
You're
while,
like, what do I do next? That is for you
cryptic ass
to
shit
figure
into
out.
my ear. Yeah. I'm just like, that's not helpful. If you're gonna say something that makes sense. Don't be like, a man believes, a child does. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm a robot. I don't even know what that means.
I lean in close. I'm like, listen, just before you pay attention to this, I just threw up a little on your back.
Oh man, gross. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, Mission 7.
Right,
there's a lot of fucking vomit on my back from Mission 7. Then we've been doing this for a minute.
So if you haven't caught our earlier ones, we definitely encourage you to go back and catch them. They run long because our format is basically Craig plays through it, and then we go back and we talk about like all the issues that might be inspired. So at the very least, if you want to catch up to kind of where we are and where this story is taking a turn, go back and watch the beginnings of those, where the actual playthrough is usually only like 20 minutes. So you go through the playthrough, watch what we did, and then if you want to skip the discussion, that's up to you. Or you can play it like a podcast in the car or whatever, and just listen to it. Also, we do a regular podcast if you're not aware. It is called actually Live from the Man Cave. And you can find it on iTunes. You can find it on any major or any podcast app, really. Yep. I'm putting the title in the chat right there. And then also, you could also find it directly on our website, which is www.livemancave.com. As Craig goes through, I'll be posting, like, we have a Discord chat, and we got some guys that are going to be like jumping in the chat on here, watching the video a little later. Join our Discord chat, give us feedback on this, give us feedback on the podcast, anything where it's interactive. We just opened a channel in there for a celebration of women channel, so if you want to see pics of beautiful women, post pics of beautiful women, that's what we do in the Man Cave. We admire women. Ogle, admire, same thing.
We're basically 15 years old is what you're saying. The way you're describing us is not really winning us over to any adults, but I appreciate that we are not bending to, I don't know, everything that's happening right now in 2019 and beyond. But it's totally fine.
Exactly.
This is what we're here for. It's a goddamn man cave. It says it in the title. What do you expect from us? It's right there. Like,
and so for purposes of today, we've been following, the story has been following 3 separate characters. I don't think their stories have really intertwined yet. If they do, and we'll depends on the choices Mac will make.
Yep.
But the character we're going to be focusing on today is Kara, and you can see her on CraigMakk's screen right now. And the chapter is called Stormy Night today. There were 2 previous chapters that involved Kara, and the first one where we saw her in Mission 2, which was just the opening where she gets picked up from what basically looks like an Apple store, but they sell Androids. She's getting picked up after they made repairs to her. I get
that joke. It's an Apple store, but they sell Androids. But
yeah. So I wonder if that was. Well, anyway, they pick her up. The previous owner picks her up and starts to drive her back through Detroit, and we see this futuristic 20 years in the future version of Detroit that they've been going through, and they basically end up at this shitty house where she's forced to do a bunch of chores that androids do, like cleaning up around the house and shit like that. And
cleaning the game, definitely.
But there was he has a daughter at home that he yells at. Basically, he's like pissed off because the mother left. Turns out this guy does like this red ice, like hardcore drugs type of deal. Yells at his daughter. I don't think he beat her up too bad. Did he put his hands on her? I don't remember.
Well, I don't know. First of all, I do want to just go on record as saying anytime you're referring to your child and you say, I don't think he beat her up too bad, implies that that's probably too much already. Like, I don't think there's like the limit where you're like, that was an acceptable amount of beating. But
he's not winning Father of the Year.
It was definitely more. I mean, he did grab her up, and he I don't think necessarily choked her, or if he just kind of grabbed her like around the like neck area or whatever, and it was way more of just like straight up screaming in her face. I mean, it was like intense verbal abuse if it was not physical. Which I'm pretty sure was also physical, but it was a shitload of verbal.
He got
abuse.
Physical with the android, definitely with Kara. He put his
definitely got physical with
hand
her
around her neck.
And then he did the weird, which is like kind of happens a lot in movies. It's kind of a trope at this point, I guess. The idea of I'm gonna scream at my daughter and then immediately be like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, I love you. Like, he did one of those. So there was that moment of trying to realize that he gets that he loses control, and so he's not just a total piece of shit, although he's a total piece of shit, but like he definitely recognizes that he's kind of losing it, and that he's abusive and that he's a mess and whatever. So I think that was literally
and throughout
the final
this we
scene,
also
right?
see and we've seen also, and like I guess it's important, is that Kara is starting to build a rapport with this little girl.
The child, yes.
Who at first seems a little frightened of her, and now less so.
Right. And we do not know if she is afraid of her because of previous, like interactions with her, because as we said, she was getting picked back up again and she didn't have her memory or anything. We just don't know any of that stuff yet. It's more that we're just uncovering that as we go. So that's pretty much.
So I think we're ready to start, except for one key component.
Huge. It's not key. It is the key component to this entire thing. It's the only reason we really do this is because I think our biggest learning from Live from the Man Cave, and then it is carried over into Ready Player 2, is that we realized what we do when we're just like laying around playing video games, or when we are even just like when you and I would just be like talking prior to doing the podcast, we realized a lot of that revolves around alcohol. So we figured, instead of it just being like a problem,
my favorite.
Yeah, instead of making it be like a problem, a thing that people could like tell us we need to go see somebody to get help for, we figured let's just make that be a part of the whole show, and then it becomes like fun and cool, and like everyone can laugh and be like, those guys are awesome, yeah, because that's their thing. So what we do is we have a thing that we like to call our beer of the show. The sound clip is so much better. But we always have a beer that we like to drink. We tell you about it. We try it out. Sometimes we shit the bed on it, as Jess most recently did. Usually, if you're me, you always grab a winner because I'm fucking amazing at this. But we drink that.
You don't take chances, though.
And what? Okay, I don't know about that.
You don't take any chances. You're like, I had to verify this beer through ratebeer.com, and then three other qualifying cross-checks with other websites that I find reputable. And then I also asked my liquor dealer, liquor store dealer,
we can go on record as saying the only times that you have quote unquote gone and taking a chance is when you've gotten something that was made by fucking Budweiser. So I think that's more on you than on me. That's you just fucking.
No, I
up.
actually
But that's
I
okay.
shop for beer by the label.
Good. Okay.
I walk in, I'm like, that looks cool. Good description.
Let's see if you shit the bed on this one. Why don't you tell us first? What are you going to be drinking tonight, Jess?
I'm sure I did not, because I've heard nothing but great things about this. And I was looking in my liquor store, doing my liquor store like whatever they call it, the cooler, yep, or whatever. And I saw just by the name, I was like, oh fuck, I heard great things. So I'm really looking forward to this. So I like this brewer as like I'm not crazy about this brewer though. This brewer is decent. They're solid. They put out solid beer normally, right? But it's nothing that I look at and go, oh man, I can't wait to drink some Goose Island.
Right.
However, this is the Goose Island Bourbon County brand stout.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so this one is the fucking white whale that I keep hearing about. Is so fucking good from Goose Island.
Yes.
The only time I really hear that Goose Island is, people like talk about like, oh, the Goose Island. You know what I mean? Other than that, Goose Island is decent. It's good beer, but it's not like, it's not. I don't look forward to it like I do like Omegang, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, Omegang always makes great shit.
Right.
But this one says intense aromas of charred oak, vanilla, caramel, and smoke. It's in a very nice bottle. It said it's the original bourbon barrel aged stout according to them. It says it develops in the bottle up to 5 years. So technically, this one was bottled on September 2018. I probably should be aging it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not that patient, and I told you beer's not going to sit in my house. I'm going to fucking drink that shit. Don't come to my house acting like you own the fucking place. I'm gonna fucking drink your ass, motherfucker. So I'm gonna crack this bitch open. By the way, it comes in at a strong 15.2% ABV.
Wow.
Yeah. So nice little pop. Oh, so the smell comes raging out. I thought like the way it came. You know what? It's a strong caramel smell.
Yeah.
I almost thought I smelled cherries for a little bit.
Yeah.
But the smell is really intense, coming right out of the bottle. It's caramel. You could smell all that stuff: the caramel, the vanilla, the oak, and the smoke. It's like, it smells really great. So it says on the bottle also, enjoy in a snifter. Oh, so as I pour this, it almost looks like coffee. That's how nice and
nice.
Oh, this is beautiful smell. Again, it's a smell. It smells like all of those flavors, plus like almost like a freshness,
Right.
I can't even describe how that it's like a fresh, like clean sort of smell. So I'm gonna take my sip now. That is fucking good, Craig. God, have you had this before?
Yes,
have you had
I
Bourbon
have.
County?
It's amazing, yeah.
Oh, wow. So it almost tastes like coffee. Really rich coffee with like caramel in it and the vanilla. You can taste all those flavors that they talked about. It's beautiful. It's so smooth. It's definitely that it's a solid stout. And while it is very, very high ABV, I don't think the alcohol isn't really overwhelming to me. I could easily I could easily chug this and get fucked up real fast without realizing what's going on.
Right.
I'm really enjoying this. Wow, this is I'm gonna go back and get more of these.
That's
shit.
Awesome. So it's funny that you say that because part of like what you were saying is Goose Island, who's been around since the 80s, I think they opened, something like that. They had one of the things that people have talked shit about them is that a couple of years back, I think now might be around. It's definitely the early 2010s, right? So let's say like 2011, 2012, something around that time, that Goose Island was purchased by Anheuser-Busch, right? InBev, right? So the huge conglomerate, right? So there are a lot of people who have gone so far as say people I know who have said I could tell the moment they got purchased, the next year I could tell they just didn't taste as good anymore, right? And so I personally think some of that's bullshit. I think that is some people just being, being beer snobs and want to say, maybe some people can tell the difference. I don't necessarily think that A lot of their, maybe some of their more mass-produced stuff, as anything gets more mass-produced, but even for like more, what are they called? Like your more craft brewers, if it's your flagship beer and you mass-produce the shit out of it, it's going to start to taste like, it becomes the same, right? Because that's the one they want to have in every beer shop, and then their like specialty beers are the ones that they try to take some chances with. So I think the stout one is basically their Bourbon County Stout. Like that is one of those ones where I think like everyone to a T still says that's like one of those white whale ones that people are trying to track down. No matter what, people know that one is amazing. And it's funny that you mentioned that because I just we have talked on the show, but about Untapped, like that site or that app that you can use to log all the different beers that you try and kind of tag things and rate them and say what you think about them, almost like kind of keep a picture, a pictorial, like memory book of all the different beers you've had. I was just putting in a couple of like old beers in there today, like ones that I just had bottles of from over like Christmas break and stuff. And every once in a while they'll just pop up like, here's a little promotion or a thing that you can, like a little badge you can win if you do XYZ over the next month. Like you get this, like you get a Christmas one if you tag that you drank a beer on Christmas, that kind of thing. And one of the things they just had today was it was enter the Bourbon County Stout Badge Challenge. How it works. All three parts of the Bourbon County brand stout badge by checking into one Bourbon County Stout variant from any year, a Bourbon County brand coffee stout or Bourbon County brand coffee barley wine from any year, and a Bourbon County proprietor's beer from any year. So basically, if you log in and tag. So it's funny that right as you're having this one for the first time, which is an incredible beer, they're just doing like a promotion right now through Untapped as like, hey, if you tag into these three, you'll get the Bourbon County Stout Challenge badge, which is a thing that I like immediately said, yep, enter me in that. And now I need to go track those three down. And so you're already a third of the way there, dude. So
do you get anything for the badge or?
It's just like everything else. It's like one of those things where they're just trying to gamify a thing that you're already doing, which is like you just get a badge that says like, oh, you drank, like I said, you drank a thing on IPA day, like you had an IPA on IPA day, or you drank like a beer during like New York Brewers Week and you drank a beer in New York, so you just get a badge that just shows up on your profile. So it's more of just a way to like gamify it, right?
Like a PlayStation trophy.
Exactly, it's like a trophy. Yep, it's the exact same thing.
So this reminds me of like World of Beers. Are you familiar with World of Beers? That franchise?
Yes. They're awesome.
Yeah, I love that place. They shut the one in New Brunswick down, I heard.
Yeah.
But they used to have something just like that, but you could actually win. You know what I mean? Like what? Because they could actually verify, like, okay, you ordered that here, so we check it off for you. And
yes.
And then you would actually like win free beers and stuff like that.
There is a very cool place that I had heard about from a couple of friends of mine who live near. I'd have to go back and look where this place is now. I just remember the name, but there's a bar in New Jersey called the Cloverleaf Tavern, and the Cloverleaf actually has like a similar thing where you go in, you get a beer passport, and you essentially check off. Like they'll have like it'll be like seasonal passports, and they'll be like 20 beers or something on them, and they'll say like if you come in and every time you drink one you check it off, and if you like check them all off you get something, and then they give you like a t-shirt or whatever it is and your name goes up on a wall or something like that. So again, it's just ways like they're like, look, you're already an alcoholic, that's cool, like if we can make it be fun. So like if you're not going to meetings, at least you're coming here and you're checking off something on the back end. So I thought that was pretty cool. But anything that can do that to me is kind of an interesting way to keep it light and fun in the meantime. And speaking of light and fun in the meantime, you want me to jump right into mine and tell you?
Yes, sir.
So I'm having from another brewer that we have actually talked about. I don't want to say a lot, but more than once or twice over the last few months, it's come up. Specifically because I have been to this brewery relatively recently. We've talked about that, and so. Stop me if we have talked about this specific beer on the show already, because I don't want to waste anyone's time. But this is one that I just got over the holidays, and so I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about it yet. But The brewery is Evil Genius. So Evil Genius, based right in Philadelphia. So if you remember,
We've definitely had Evil Genius beer before.
Yes, we have had Evil Genius, and we talked about that because I had just gone there not that long ago. So I think over like the end of the summertime, I went over there, and so they've come up a couple times since then. And so they have, one of the things we've talked about that they do a lot is they have their names are always something crazy, right? It's usually a cultural touchstone. It's something that is like based on it's like a movie line, like Ma the Meatloaf, or
Right.
Purple Monkey Dishwasher, things like that, right? So this one is their Christmas beer. So it is a festive saison, which is one of the ones I definitely love, and I know we've talked about the Broken Goblet. They have their saison that they make throughout the course of the year, and then they do their Santa's Slayzon, which is their festive saison, right? It's their saison where they put in some kind of Christmas like spice and stuff to it. So this is a similar one where they make their regular saison, then they have their festive saison, and this one based on a very famous line from a movie that you will probably almost immediately know, but it is with double exclamation points, Santa, I know him! So it is right out of Elf, yep. And so this one is Santa, I Know Him is our holiday saison brewed with rose hips, chamomile, black currants, and dark Belgian candy syrup. Deep, complex, and intriguing. Yep. This bone-dry Belgian-style ale is sure to seduce you or the one you're with. Roses, chamomile.
See what they did there.
Yep.
Bone.
Yeah, yep. Roses, chamomile, and currants have long been considered powerful aphrodisiacs, so we decided to combine them with mysterious and beguiling Belgian saison yeast. The result is something very special and sure to help spice up nights spent at home during the cold winter months. Have you been naughty or nice this year, or both? So this one is 7.2%. Yep, and it's a limited release, and it's cool. It's like, obviously it's their Evil Genius label is in green with what looks like it's snowing, like little snowflakes falling on it, and then the part where it says Santa I Know Him is obviously written in red, so they have the red and green label right on it. So this one is 21 IBU, International Bitter Units, and the hops, in case anyone cares, is Warrior hops, mixed in with the rose hips, chamomile, black currants, dark Belgian candy syrup. So that's what this guy's all about. So I'm going to crack this open and pour this one real quick, and then we can jump in.
What's the ABV on it?
7.2.
Solid.
So it's a nice solid one. And perfect for Christmas time because, I like it's got a, it's light when you're pouring it. You can see it. It's an ale, right? So it's a Belgian-style ale. So it is, it's not like some of the other ones we've talked about where we've had like the heavy porters and stouts and stuff in the wintertime, things that are kind of like fill you up almost like a meal. This one's definitely not that, but it has this one's going more on the flavorful side in terms of like spices and that spicy, fruity flavor to it. You can smell immediately. You can smell the candy syrup. Like you can smell the sweetness to it.
Nice.
But you can also almost smell like a floral scent to it. You can smell a little bit of like that. There's something in there that almost like smelling flowers. Which is pretty cool. It's like a nice little mix. And then let's try this guy. Yeah. So, oh man. So that is perfect. It is a perfect mix of being kind of sweet and having a little bit of that like that floral kind of IPA back end, or not IPA, but the ale, ale floral flavor to it, so you can taste a little bit of the black currants, then the candy syrup mixed in with almost like the same way when you smell flowers, like you taste that in it, which is kind of cool. It's like a nice mix. It's almost like when you walk into a room that has somebody has their tree, the scent of a Christmas tree, and you can kind of like just inhale that, like that. It has a little bit of that to it, which is very cool. This is awesome.
Nice.
But it's not overpowering. It's nothing too crazy. This is something that I could drink pretty easily. It does not taste like 7.2. Like it goes down as something
smooth.
It goes
smooth,
down
like Gary
smooth.
Coleman.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like something you could be doing for a while. So I might be, since we're going to be doing this for a minute.
So I want to reiterate, we got a Discord server going on in there. We got fans of the show in there talking, so they're aware that we've been discussing these beers. More Shots weighed in and he said, Goose Island Bourbon County Brand Stout is very solid. They had it on tap in Indiana. He said even found 2 bottles. He's got 2 bottles aging from last year. They like to release different flavor ones, but he's never seen any of them. So apparently, and this is kind of like what got me really intrigued in this one, apparently like we're lucky in this area because they keep talking about like the Founders beers and like this Goose Island bourbon stuff like being hard to find.
Yep.
In my local liquor stores. I'm right by New York City, so like in my local liquor stores, these are easy. Like there are several bottles of this Bourbon County Brand Stout there that I can just go pick up at my leisure.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same around where you live because you live more towards South Jersey, or more closer to Philly or whatever. So
Right.
I mean, are you seeing these like in abundance, or are they hard to find for you too?
I wouldn't necessarily say in abundance, but I'm definitely not having the same scarcity that like these guys are, where they're, like, I mean, remember we
about
talked
like
about,
Detroit and Indiana.
we talked not that long ago. I think it was actually on New Year's Eve, where those guys had all gotten together to get like the Founders KBS and to try out, the KBS beer, and then
Kentucky Bourbon Stout, right?
Yeah, and then I went to my local like beer place, and they were doing like a full taster of like Founders KBS, Founders CBS, like they had all of them, and I was just like, yeah, that's no problem, man. I've had them on here at the Man Cave before, so I don't think it's not like I can. So just
it's good to live in Jersey.
Right. I don't think it's like we can just walk into a store and get them whenever we want, because there is going to be, some degree of built-in scarcity just by that's how they want to sell those beers and make them be kind of more more sought after. But it's definitely not to the same degree of like these guys who are driving like 2 hours to go to a place to get them, and we're like, I could just drive 15 minutes to my liquor store.
Yeah, 5 minutes. 5 minutes for me.
I
got 2 different liquor stores within 5 minutes.
Right. They may only have like 6 or 8, like 6-packs, so you want to grab them when you get them. But 6 or 8 6-packs in your place that's 5 minutes away from you is way better than having to drive, 2 hours to get to the actual brewery itself or something to go pick it up. So I'm down with that. So we're already winning in Jersey.
Yeah. All right, so you've heard the general concept of the show. You've heard us talk about some beer. Now a half hour in, it's time to start playing, CraigMakk.
Do it. All right.
Let's find out what happens on a stormy night.
Right. I finally learned not to have the big dramatic pause right when I hit continue, and then we have to wait like 30 minutes for it to load. Right. I just kind of did that shit on the back end while we were already talking, so this thing can load up for us. And we can get ready. I'm
going to disappear for about 30 seconds to a minute. He's going to take a piss.
Oh, yay. Way to announce it. All right, here we go. So I have to carry this show all by myself. 100%. Here we go. November 5th. Let's see what happens. Oh, the daughter's back. Oh shit, he's passed out. I like it. I like that about this guy. Kara's being kind of creepy.
Dinner is ready.
Oh, this guy sucks.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Oh, jeez. All right, so it is still made the game. Perfect. Oh, man. All right, I'd be pretty pissed, too, if I was Todd. Spending all this money on a goddamn Android.
There wasn't much in the kitchen.
This is what she makes.
I did what I could.
She makes fucking macaroni and sauce. Or spaghetti and sauce. She blows. Good, did my job.
Turn on the lights!
Shut up, bitch.
See shit!
Shut up, cockface. You know what? Now I'm not going to do it because you're being a dick. Now I won't turn on the lights. Turn on the fucking light yourself. Let's see. Is there anything else I can do around here? Fuck this guy. He's just being a dick, yelling. Turn on the light! I'm like, dude, I just gave you dinner.
So are you, is that how you're playing Kara?
I am actively, now I'm having Kara just be like, fuck you. because I actually just don't like the way that he's treating everybody. He's just too annoying. Also, I did specifically, actually, I will say, breaking the fourth wall. I saw that there was like my next job was turn on the lights, and then it had dot 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 underneath, which means there's another thing that I can do. So I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck that is before I appease this asshole and turn on the lights. But it looks like I might end up just turning on the lights, because this is also.
I'm interested to see what happens if you take too long.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I said lights, and then you get fucking choked out
see,
again.
There's that locked thing underneath that it says. Alright, fuck it, I'll turn on the goddamn light. Let's see.
Don't make me tell you again.
Oh, okay.
Stop moving
Just
around,
unlocked
for Christ's
immediately.
sake, you're making me nervous.
Shut up! He's the worst.
What are you looking at?
He's talking shit to his daughter.
What's your fucking problem?
Alright, I want to karate chop this dude. Is there a button for...
Not the life you dreamed of, eh?
I mean, I'm fucking poor.
Maybe you think this is easy. Maybe you think it's my fault we live in this fucking shithole.
It is! You're the
My
worst!
fault your fucking mother took off!
Yes! You're the worst!
You should stop taking drugs, Todd.
You should stop taking drugs,
You
Todd.
scare me, Todd.
You don't scare me, you're just annoying, Todd.
Bitch took off without a word. Fucking whore walked out on me.
She looks so realistic, that little girl on that,
Yeah,
right?
she's really, really good. Like,
Daddy
well
knows.
animated.
Your fucking fault!
Oh, okay. I like that they didn't show that, though, because that's rough. That's fucked up.
Get back here. Come back here. Come back here right now!
He sucks. Alright, like, this is where I'm gonna go on record again as saying, like, David Cage, we got it. He sucks.
I know it's
he
a
didn't
fault.
have to do that. He's like heavy-handed with everything.
Really? I mean,
Don't you dare fucking
I mean,
move.
remember the last time we saw him
Last time.
ended with him abusing his. Oh, fuck
Took
him.
off.
Nope.
Let it work.
I'm walking away. Fuck him. Oh wow. Oh, they won't let me. Oh, and she's turning. No, fuck that. Yeah, I'm moving right through that shit.
he said, or I'll bust you like I did
Yeah, fuck
the last time.
Oh shit. This is what it's like to go deviant. That's actually pretty cool. That they have to like fight through this whole fucking thing. That's actually pretty cool. Okay, I like that. No, so the thing I was going to say that did kind of annoy me is the idea of, wait, do I have to beat his ass or? No, fuck John. No, I'm not beating John. I'm going upstairs to protect the girl. So like.
I mean, we could just talk about that. What you're
Right.
about to talk about, we could just talk about it in the aftermath, because I feel like it might take away from what's, you know what I mean? Like,
what's about to happen. Sure, you're right.
Make her.
Oh, it's fun.
I just wasn't good enough for her.
Oh, he's losing his fucking mind. Right? Get the fuck out of here! What? Okay, I couldn't find it. Where's her room? Like, here's her room.
that's Todd's cool ass room, right? Because it's got the fucking hockey jersey up on the wall, it's like a winner does.
It's all her fault.
Oh yeah, she has that shit. Okay. Joined Alice in her room. Can I lock the door?
He's coming. He's gonna hurt me. Run! Get away, or he's gonna break you like last time.
Oh shit. Okay. Oh yeah, there you go.
Alice! Daddy's coming!
Fuck you.
You need to be taught a lesson.
It sucks.
Did you find something?
To hit him with? Oh, please be something I can hit him with.
Open this fucking door.
Yeah. Fuck you,
You're
Todd.
gonna get a hell of a drop.
Fuck you, Todd. Hit his ass.
The fuck are you doing here? Get
Did
out
you
of
not
my
notice I
way!
wasn't still standing there.
No,
Oh, I love it.
I won't let you hurt her.
You won't let me? What the fuck are you talking about? You're just a goddamn piece of plastic! You seem to have a problem,
Getting good now.
and I'm gonna fix it for good.
Oh, I lost it already? What the? Aren't I like ridiculously strong? My goddamn android.
Watch out, Kara!
Come here, bitch.
Nice, she's got those fucking sweet moves.
Oh no!
No! Leave her alone!
That's not cool. You seem to be going wrong.
You do as I say!
You got a good fucking crossing on her, man.
Oh, here we go. It's your chance. Do it! Boom! Oh! Fuck you, Todd! Fuck you, Todd! Oh man, he caught it hard.
He felt like Pacquiao when he caught that knockout.
Boink! Fuck you. No.
Honey.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
The motherfucker's like, I want my money back.
Wait, what? Why are we not running? Why is he up already? What the?
You ain't going nowhere! You're mine!
Craig, he's coming!
That motherfucker's walking after you like Michael Myers.
Come on. Woo! Woo! Let's go. Fuck out. Alright. Goddamn bus. Here we go. Oh shit, I'm deep as fuck now.
You have to obey me!
Yeah, it's gonna work.
Come on.
Yeah. You have to obey me. Oh yeah, she's blinking red. Nice. I just noticed that for real this time.
Todd, you got a little something on your shirt. Is that blood? You're bleeding all over the place, man.
Jesus. Wheels came off Todd pretty quick in that episode. Oh, they're cute. That's very cute. Did I just make it through? In 6 minutes? We talked for 30 minutes? Holy shit, there was a lot of stuff that I did not do. Wow. Wow. That was... Alright, that was impressive how many things that we could... I mean, I know that a lot of that is probably going to be like... It was the clear options where it was like reason with Todd or protect Alice or like lock the door or talk to him or whatever. So some of that was like things you could only do, but...
Remember, remember, not everything in here is about find the Easter egg. You know what I mean? It's...
No, it's it's supposed to be butterfly effect, right? It's supposed to be divergent paths where you find, things that, like you did one of the three options that were on the table, and whatever happens from there, which is pretty cool.
Right.
That was a pretty good one, man.
Yeah. So I told you these are starting to get now like the action, like the original ones are like set the pace. They're more calm. Our discussions afterwards were like, yes, and if you take this general concept and like these are like the ones that are coming, the action will start to pick up now more. So some of our discussions will be more like actual story related rather than general, the general concepts that we apply to life.
Right.
This one is a short one. I don't know how many issues there are for us to talk about, but let's just talk through some of the ones, that we encountered. So,
well, so I guess
dinner's
okay,
yeah. Good.
The first one I was going to say, the biggest one was the one I noticed right out of the gate, which would be probably my biggest, not like my biggest negative or criticism of that episode was that you probably only needed to do one or the other. You only needed to end the last time we saw Todd with him screaming at the daughter and like abusing her and then apologizing. Or start this one with him losing his fucking mind, throwing the table, and hitting her. You didn't need.
So I don't think he hit her before. I think that's why I was asking about it. I remembered that he hit her at some point.
He just grabbed her. Like that's why I said all he did was he grabbed her.
Yeah, the last time, right.
He just got up on her face, he grabbed her, and he started screaming at her. It's like, "It's your fault, you bitch," or whatever the fuck he says. And then he's like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to grab you like that. I love you so much. It's just that she left me and I'm sad or whatever." So the point is like, okay, if any dad does that to their like what seems to be, let's say, 5 to 7 year old kid, like I don't know exactly, but let's say somewhere in that range, right? Would you guess? I'm not like we don't know, right? Let's say she's anywhere between that. Let's split the difference. Let's say she's 6. Any dad who even didn't do what you just did right now, if she did what he did, if you did what he did in the last time we saw him, where he fucking flips out, screams at her, grabs her, like basically holds her and starts screaming in her face, and then does the like, "I'm so sorry, I love you," you would be like, you should be taken away. Like your kid should be taken away from by DYFS. Like that was crazy.
You're
like
on
what he
some
did.
new age parent shit.
That was
That's some
that
new
was
age
crazy.
parent shit.
That was
Come on.
crazy. Like
I mean, you're over. I mean, to me, parents. Not everybody is a good parent.
right.
And there's a big difference between doing some fucked up shit and then being like a completely unfit parent that did. I mean, and in his case, it's clear he's probably an unfit parent. He's doing drugs in the fucking house.
Yes.
They live in a fucking shitty house, which kind of gets fixed by the android, right? So obviously that house only looks like that because the android's been broken, and this guy obviously is just like, well,
Not teaming up. Right. Not keeping up with it. Right.
So you can assume that with the android there, she lives in a clean house. There's a roof over her head. She's getting fed.
He does drugs and is essentially just.
He does drugs.
He is just a fucking like. I mean, this episode literally started with him passed out on the table at the table, and she had to wake him up. Now, I'm not casting stones because there's plenty of times where I'm fucking knocked out. Like that's okay. I will be at the end of this.
No,
episode.
he seems like gonna be. I mean, obviously she's not a happy kid.
Right.
It seems like a really bad situation.
Is that first?
But just losing your shit and yelling at your kid to me is
no. But again, remember he like grabbed her around the neck and was yelling at her. So,
no, he grabbed Kara by the neck. I don't think he grabbed the kid by the neck.
I think he did to Kara. He did the like forearm up against the neck and pressed her up against the table, or up against the thing when she like reached in towards the drugs. He like did the forearm, grabbed her up, and held her up against the wall. With the daughter, he just came up and grabbed her. Maybe he did the shoulder grab. I know he grabbed her like in the upper body, pushed her up against the wall, and was like screaming at her, and then did the "I'm so sorry, I love you" thing or whatever. So it wasn't just verbal, it was physical as well, even if it wasn't hitting, right? But more importantly, like there's a difference between like I have kids too. I don't shit on any parent who yells at their kid just because they're fucking mad. Like there's nothing like I don't think there's anything intentionally wrong or like specifically wrong with yelling at your kid. But David Cage went out of his way to make that man look like a psychopath screaming at his child. Like, he's screaming at a 5-year-old like, "You think it's my fucking fault? You fucking bitch!" Like, it wasn't just like, "Why aren't you, like, put your shoes on, we're trying to go, I need to take you to school," and you just won't listen. Like, that's just, like, exasperation because your kid's just fucking being annoying, and you just, like, they've pushed you past the point of using reason, and they make you go crazy, and you say shit that you don't want to say, right? Everyone fucking does it. Like, it sucks, but everyone does it. There's another thing when you show that sequence where the man is literally like, this is a man who would murder somebody. He just hasn't been given the opportunity to do it yet. That's how crazy they tried to make him look the first time. And then they immediately flash to the next time we see him. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying that part was bad in and of itself. I'm just saying we get it that he's crazy. But you don't need back-to-back moments to be so over the top where one is he's just screaming and shouting and holding her down and like shouting at her and then apologizing and crying and do the whole like, you know, abusive husband like, "I'm sorry I hit you, honey," like that whole thing. And then you flash away for 1 minute as far as the story is going, and the next time you flash back, he's flipping over a fucking table, screaming at his daughter, he's calling her mom a whore, and then backhanding the fuck out of her, and then walking up the stairs like the goddamn Terminator, like, "I'm coming for you, Alice." I'm like, we get it, he's an abusive dad.
No, well,
like,
to me, so here's my
story without it being where he becomes almost like comedically evil. Like, you could make him actually be a good, abusive, shitty dad. And good, again, I don't mean good in terms of good versus evil. I'm saying you could make him be a believable, abusive dad in a way where I would still feel the same as the player, the same desire to protect the child from him, without him now becoming like essentially Michael Myers, stomping around like, you know, he's just like coming towards her, and I'm just hearing like, I'm like, why'd you have to go overboard with it, Dave? Like, why can't you understand there's some nuances available to you when you tell a fucking story? It just jumped out at me immediately.
What I saw was that in the previous mission with Kara, right, I thought that they like you even in your describing it, right? You were flashing back to like this wasn't necessarily a happy home, and it seemed like this guy was a shitty dude, but at least he realized that he was a shitty dude, and in some way he regretted it, right? And so it almost like that last mission to me left me thinking maybe there's hope for Todd, because he's, or not even hope, but like it's not all coming from a place of like this guy is just completely evil. Like it seems like he's had his run of hard times. Something happened with the ex-wife.
His heart was broken.
Like this is just like this guy has like to me he's at a low. He's bottomed out as a person, right?
Okay.
So it could be that he used to be like an okay guy, and he's like now fallen into this. So it was just like this weird situation. And when you're like, and if you're looking at it from the viewpoint of Kara, you're like, I don't know, I just got my memory. I don't have my memory back. But I'm living in this house and some shit seems to be off. Yeah, and the guy is weird. Like, right. He's not pleasant, right?
Right.
But, you know, he hasn't crossed the line yet. And, you know, I still got a job to do, so I'm going to do it. Except when I touched his drugs, and he really didn't like that. So I think as long as I don't touch his drugs, I think I can survive here and be somewhat okay, right? And then we get to this one. And, you know, the stormy night, the foreshadowing with the weather and, right. You know, whatever it is, this motherfucker is like so any doubt. And so this is why, like, these kind of like the abusive guy story or the abusive person story kind of, this is played just like it's the usual trope in that, and I don't say that in a negative way, in that this is real life too with abusers, right? Like, right. They're not always ramped up to 100. They're not always at that. There's the times, and that's what keeps the victims around. There's the times where they're tolerable, where they're like, right. It's not so bad. He's letting off some steam.
I hear you on all that, and that would be my one thing is that the way you're describing it would be good storytelling if he was actually like that. Whereas this...
But he was like that in the last mission.
No, but when he teetered between 90 and 110. Like, it was never like he never chilled out and was like cool or tolerable or even or nice or even tolerable or anything like that. He was never like a guy where you're like, oh, this is the reason why somebody would stick around. Because he was varying degrees of a dick to horribly pathetic and still a dick to horribly abusive and even more of a dick. And I'm like, that's just not great storytelling, because at that point, then literally, if you're going to do that, just have the first mission that we see him, have me drop into him abusing his daughter, and have me have to decide I want to take her away from him, because you didn't add to the story by having it be like, oh, he cried for 2 seconds, because then I was just like, oh, he's just a lunatic. Like, nothing about that seemed believable. It just seemed like he was a lunatic who now was like, oh, I'm fucking the worst. I'm the fucking idiot. I'm a fucking idiot. And I was like, yeah, you're just that guy. Like, nothing about that made me feel like, oh, man. This is where I feel like the Android component comes in to play, though, right? Because and this is actually a good transition to talk about this. Right. Is in the first one, the Android comes in, she has her instructions, and she's obviously in a bad situation, but you know it's not optimal, whatever. But she's like, "Fuck it, I have my orders, and this is where I'm at." You know, and this guy is again more bark than bite at that point, right? But then, so in this 5
one,
seconds only though. I mean, because he did immediately.
Well, I mean, the only time the worst he did when she touched his drugs, then he flipped, but they stopped. He didn't actually inflict damage.
Okay, but if you did that to your wife,
no, right,
that's damage.
Right.
That is you're going to jail. Like, if you fucking throw your wife against the wall and put your forearm up against her throat and be like, "Don't touch my fucking drugs, bitch," or I'll fucking kill you.
I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't make it to jail because she's
like, I'm killing everyone. I'm burning this goddamn house down.
She would stab me.
Oh, she would shoot you. Gotcha.
Yeah.
She would have her
I wouldn't make it to jail.
She would have her hidden wrist blade and be like.
Yeah. I would have to call the cops on myself because I'm like, I need protection. What happened? I just threw my wife. I just lost my temper and threw my wife against the wall. I need protection.
Right. You're like, and now she's punctured my spleen.
This will not go. This will not go unanswered. She's made that clear.
Right.
But I don't know. From a pure like. Yeah, we could. Again, I mean, we can nitpick this down to, you know, like, oh well, he could have. But to me, like the point was made that the first one was the first mission that we encountered this home, where or the previous mission where we encountered this home,
right,
was just meant to say this is a shitty situation, but she's an android and that just sucks for her. She's just stuck, right? And then we saw that situation with like the last mission that we had with Connor, where you and this immediately made me like happy back in that mission. I couldn't tell you then, but how you made it a point to say like, oh shit, it looked like there was a moment where that android was like, was still trying to stick to the programming, and then realized like when he finally snapped and he broke free of all programming. But you were like, it wasn't immediate. It's not like he took a hit and then just retaliated.
Right.
Like there was a progression where he kept taking beatings and then finally snapped. Right. And then you got to see that. This is like you got to actually see the process.
So I will say that is one of the single coolest things that this game has done to this point is add gameplay mechanic to what to this point has only been a theoretical kind of, the going deviant or whatever. Because like I had made comments.
But I love that you saw that in the previous one. You saw this happen through the actions. It was awesome, and you didn't even see it happen live. You saw the recreation of it, and we're like, wow. So like that to me is a story well told, where like the viewer figured that shit out from like the preview. You did it in a way so it was clear what happened back then. And then on the next mission, you get to actually see the mechanics of how it happened, behind the curtain. That was really fucking cool.
So that is again, which takes me back to my original point that I've said so far to this point in this game, is where we led into this game as there being that kind of very divided, approach to David Cage, and there are people that think he's fucking complete trash at telling stories. There are people that think that he tells great stories, and that's kind of the two ends of the spectrum. And how up to this point right now, I'm pretty comfortable with saying like I think he is a bit of both at the same time, right? Which is, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I think it is that there are certain things where I think there are certain bits of storytelling that he potentially drops the ball on, like where he gets a little too out of his depth, right? He reaches a little too far for the brass ring. He tries to tell a story about something that maybe eludes him just a bit, right? He's like, I'm going to tell this story about fucking androids, but it's really about racism. And everyone's like, yeah, we get it. I've read that like a million times. And he's like, no, but it's about racism. And everyone's like, no, I got it, Dave. Like, you just said the same thing again. I've seen that before. It's not a big deal. And so like he thinks he's doing this thing that is like mind-blowing. On one hand, sometimes that shit maybe is a bit outside of what his ability to tell is. On the other hand, when it comes into like specifics of integrating mechanics into gameplay and mixing the visual storytelling, I do think sometimes, like you said, I thought he killed that part, because to me that was awesome. Because I specifically even remember I said, not only was it cool that I was able to pick up on the fact that like there was that moment where it switched, but I was like, he was able to tell that where he made a defined choice to not even tell it through actual characters, but essentially kind of wireframey, like polygons, which was that was incredible. Like I was like, that ability to use your medium, the medium of games, the gameplay, so well to tell that, where like I'm not saying maybe maybe not everyone picked on that or like whatever, but like you and I clearly did. So to us that was impactful, that you were able to like, oh shit, like he emoted through a thing that was essentially just like a bunch of polygons shimmering on a screen in a way that I immediately picked up on that. That's very cool. And then to tie that together, in gameplay time, which would be 15 minutes later, really, when you finally see her actually going through the bug out moment of like having to physically kind of force her way out of this programming box, that's incredible. So like to me, I can see why there are people say, on one hand, there are things where he does not stick the landing by any stretch of the imagination, and on other things, I think people don't give him the credit that maybe he is due for being able to tell certain, like these other things, I think it's kind of interesting, right? It's a guy who's like taking chances, and they're not always going to land, and sometimes I think they're especially not always going to land when you take the chances that he does, which are like, I'm going to talk about grief, or I'm going to talk about, like, grief is like about Heavy Rain is like basically about grief of losing a child and all that, right? You have Beyond Two Souls, which is about spirituality. When you talk about like this game, which is clearly about, I mean, we've talked about racism and marginalization and
well, it's about a lot of things, to be fair, like, 'cause as we've already identified.
Right, we've identified a lot of different things, but I mean, it's about a lot of heavy topics. So when you
or
reach for those types of topics,
prejudice,
right, any
you're
type of
gonna go vague.
marginalization, whether it is because of race, gender, whatever it could be about, like the beauty of that is when you take chances, like your misses are going to be much bigger when your swings are, when you're taking bigger swings, and
Right.
that in and of itself gives me like it gives me a little bit more respect for what he's doing, because Dodd just showed up. Beyond Two Souls is about being a bad game. I do agree. I do agree that Beyond Two Souls is not a good game. And I was just saying.
By the way, I do want to give a shout out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes. Go ahead.
I just want to give a shout out to Dodd, who is expecting fourth child, Don, real soon. Any minute now. That child could just. I mean, his wife could go into labor. Yeah.
Wow.
So
she is
big shout out to him.
wildly cool that she's letting you jump in and listen to us while she's like.
Hopefully he's got us playing through the speakers throughout his house so she can hear us.
Right. That's
Turn him off!
It's very soothing probably for her to hear us talk about David Cage as she's literally about to fucking give birth. That's pretty amazing.
Little child, let me tell you about Goose Island, Bourbon County brand stout.
Little
So
child, come sit down and listen to what Uncle CraigMakk and Uncle Serious Jest have to tell you about beer and video games.
This should be live from the man cave. America's drunk uncles. That's on a t-shirt.
That's a new t-shirt. I'm down with that. Yeah. But
so you want to take us back? Start going through the
just,
choices.
Yeah, that was it. So we kind of covered. That was my first big thought on the way that gameplay played out. So it was funny how quickly it went from a to kind of tie it all back together before we go through all these choices that we just played through. The split on from 1 second I saw this moment of, oh, we get it, David Cage. Like, does it have to be where he fucking smacks his kid immediately? He already sucks. To 5 seconds later, I was like, oh shit, we're actually watching her go deviant. Like, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
to
awesome
me,
that
like,
he's able to take a shot like that.
And to me, like, seeing, like, knowing the overall, like, what the value of or what the point of each chapter is.
Right.
So the previous mission was about establishing complacency in a bad situation for the android, and then this chapter was about, okay, it's not like the situation has gotten to what you thought it might be, right? Before it was like, oh, this is a shitty situation where this dude is dangerous, but maybe he's not, and that's the shit that keeps people in abusive relationships, right? Is like, it's just good enough, like it's just not bad enough, probably is a better description, so that you don't feel like you have to make a change.
Right.
Like, I can stick this out. And then this one was where he went over the top, and you were like, and the android was like, fuck that. That's what took him past the deviancy part.
The only thing that I will say, and again, this is just me kind of, now we're getting to the nitty-gritty of just critiquing the storytelling, would be what a good storyteller in a story like this, right? And because we've even seen bad versions of this that have been, in my opinion, done better on the Lifetime channel, where there are movies about like an abusive husband, where the wife is like, I love you, but oh my god, and then eventually she fucking has to escape him, like whatever shit like that. We've seen that before, right? But what those
because in those, like you're saying, in those he says something sweet or he gets her like chocolates.
You do something.
But this guy went from like shitty to shittier
to the fucking worst in the world. So I'm like, if you're
But
doing
in his defense, though, we're dealing with 2 chapters that ranged all of about 6 minutes to play.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's my point. Is then what is the point? What's the point of doing a hard break in a chapter to come back to, hey, guess what? Did you forget that he sucks? We're going to remind you again, and just do it again. Like, what you could have just done, they could have just had one whole chapter of him just being generally the fucking worst, the way he was, do all the ominous shit where he's like, throws the what's it called? The android up against the wall, where he's basically just like, get out of the fucking way of the TV. Like, yeah, we get it, he sucks. But he doesn't have to actually abuse the kid, do nothing.
Well, see, to me, the abuse of the kid is what made her have to break that. Something has to, like, to cause deviancy, to have her have to break through that wall, there has to be, it wouldn't be believable to me if he just yelled a lot. Right?
No, but that's my point. The whole first chapter could have been him just being generally shitty, so you as the player understand, and your representation of Kara understands, he sucks and this is going to be terrible. But then you come back into the second chapter, and then what he does is he goes a bridge too far. He goes and he fucking gets up, instead of just shouting and throwing the table and being a dick, now he actually goes...
He hits the child?
Hits the kid, she runs upstairs, and then he starts coming upstairs like, I'm coming for you. Then that would already be enough for you to be like, fuck him, I have to go do what I need to do. So the point is to have him...
That's what happened, though. I mean, other than he sat back down and then she broke through because she didn't.
But I'm saying the moment where he goes and screams directly at the kid and like holds her down and like does his thing where he holds her in against the chair or against the fireplace or whatever the fuck that was and screams at her and then apologizes like a lunatic. It's like all you're showing is just like he just goes from being the worst to the fucking worster. I'm like that. I just don't.
So you would have cut out the scene in the previous mission where he screams at her. Okay.
Absolutely. I
think that was just there to kind of keep you as a cliffhanger, like, hey, we'll put a pin in this. I didn't really have a problem because, again, it was like I knew what the point of that chapter was. It was just to build this, like, this is a complacency in a bad situation. Right. But then at the end, there's that hint. Because they know, like, hey, we're going to leave and then we're going to come back. It's kind of that foreshadowing moment where you're like, oh, fuck. Like, wait, there's something more. This guy's not just, like, unpleasant.
And I will say my other problem with it a little bit, and this could be maybe, this is probably I don't know if I want to say it's debatable, but this is more just like an issue with the fact that, so the reason that you wanted Kara to react is because it's a child, right, that's in danger. So you can see how that pushes her to the point of like, okay, this kid cannot protect herself, so I have to kind of, like, if my programming is to protect humans and to obey humans, but now I have to choose one over the other. I'm choosing the child over this piece of shit that's just telling me, like, stay the fuck out of the way, right? I get that part. So that's kind of built into the story. The problem is a lot of the way the story was told, like, because we've already alluded to it many times, it relies on tropes of an abusive husband to a wife, of, like you said, complacency. Like, there's no complacency when it comes to a child being abused, because there's not a child who's like, well, but I just love my dad, so I'm going to stick around with it. Like, a child can't leave because they're a fucking child, so they're stuck in a situation because they're physically unable to do anything about it. So when you rely on the tropes of, like, complacency, like, oh, it's really shitty and he treats me like shit, but it's like not so terrible that I'm going to do something about it. It's like you're relying a little bit too heavily on a trope that is, because we've already established Kara's not being complacent, because up to this point she's been unable to do anything about it. Like, she's literally not been able to physically do anything.
No, but Kara is the representation of complacency, right? There is no deviancy because Kara lives in a world where it's tolerable. The abuse is tolerable for the android. The point where she hits deviancy is where now he has physically abused the kid, and So that's why I feel the distinction is big. The distinction, because remember, the point of these chapters,
do you think, just so I know before you continue on that point, do you think that they have established well enough that he has never abused his child before?
No, he's probably done it. He probably has abused his child before.
Absolutely.
She can't remember, though. She doesn't have that in her memory banks.
No, but that doesn't mean anything, because she could have done this back then, and she would never.
And that's probably what. I mean, that's probably how she got fucked up in the first place.
You think she tried to fight him, and that? No, because they established that he is super fucking confused.
Well, he said, I'll fuck you up again. I'll do what I did to you last time. He said, you either do this or I'll do what I did.
Yeah, but see, I would venture to guess because of the way they established, unless you could maybe convince me otherwise, I would venture to guess by the way that he was so fucking confused that she was even
when
in
she
the
stood
room,
up to him?
that she was even in the room, like when he was like, the fuck are you doing here? Like he was like, the fuck, what? Get out of my way. Like
Right.
it wasn't like he was like, oh, you're doing this shit again, now I'm gonna have to fucking wreck you with the wrench again. Like he was more like, what? Like I thought I told you to stay down there, how are you even up here?
Right.
So it seemed to me more that he probably destroyed her in the way that like somebody when their fucking computer doesn't do what they want, and they're like, motherfucking fucking shit, and they break it, not because it's fighting back at them, just because they fucking lost their shit and then they broke their keyboard, and then he was like, fuck, now I have to take this thing in to get fixed, and I'm also probably going to wipe its memory so it doesn't remember that I fucked it up in a fucking rage of idiocy. So it's like,
All right, so let's Craig, let's
Yes.
put a pin in this one, only because there is a piece of information that you're missing from this puzzle at this point in the story.
okay, that
And I
makes
don't
sense.
want, like, I've been trying to like avoid, like, I don't want to foreshadow, but there's like a piece of information that you're missing that might change your outlook on some things. It might, and it might not.
Okay.
But I will say, like, just from a general standpoint, to me, you know, when I'm just looking big picture, the previous mission was showing an android that it's like, this is not she doesn't have a choice in that. She comes back to a situation that if she had freedom, like pure free will, she would just fucking leave, right? Because who's going to stick around in that shitty, especially if you come back with your memory wiped and have no real attachment to anybody in the house. You'd be like, fuck this, I'm out, right? So, but there is kind of like the comparison to the situation where like somebody else that's the victim is, you know, is like, wow, my life is here. It's kind of like leaving would be a big deal, and it's not so bad. I'm willing to leave, right? But there's enough shit there that gives you the foreshadowing of like, this is a situation that could go bad at any given moment. And then we come back to that, and then now it's like, oh, fuck, this guy crossed the line, and now I'm going to make a decision. And we see people, not even androids, kind of do what Kara did, right? Like, oh, fuck, I've been telling myself forever I can't live without this guy, but now he's crossed the line and I'm breaking free. You know what? I can live without this guy. Right. Fuck this guy.
Right.
And break out. And that's kind of like what they're doing. But
I also do want to draw attention to God's amazing comment. David Cage relying on tropes? Oh, my God, how shocking.
There's nothing wrong with tropes.
Nope,
I mean, by the way, what is it? TVtropes.com is a site we normally use a lot.
Yes, we have referred to that many times.
They're kind of like the Wikipedia for TV. Check that out if you're ever interested in like a good like encyclopedia for common TV tropes, and they do good explanations of them too. All right, so at this point, then I don't have anything else really major about this, like as a general concept. Do you want to start going through some of the individual choices again and maybe pop the world stats?
Yep. All right, let's go back. I'm going to scroll back. Hold on. I was just getting a refill beer because I finished my first one.
No wonder you were like, you're conspicuously quiet. I'm just going to hope that he talks about this,
that
bro.
He keeps going on and on about the fucking tropes thing. All right, so here we go. I'm refilling, and now we're good to go. All right, so we are now, as you can see on the screen, so we have kept it on this main kind of where they brought us into the end screen, but we're going to scroll back, kind of take a look, and as I have already mentioned, this one clearly
What'd you get complete? What was your percentage completed?
Does it say? Where does it say?
At the top left,
right?
Stormy. Now you scroll.
So I had 30% completed. So this is by far.
Yeah, mine was 32 when I played it.
This is by far my lowest. Which again, we've talked because a lot of this is about binary choices where you had to choose like one of multiple things. It wasn't like before it was like, oh, you figured out to go out in the backyard and find that the backyard is also, no one went out in the backyard, but then you can also go back and complete the rest of it, which is cool. I like that because that's in my mind, and we've talked about this in this show before, that one of the things for me is the idea of looking for the Easter egg, right? Like finding all of the things before I advance to the next world, or the next, the next screen, the next mission. How do I figure out all the little things that they have hidden? And this game sometimes does that to you, and other times they're like, nah, dude. Sometimes it's just like you have 4 choices, but once you choose one, the other 3 are locked off to you, and like you don't get to choose those other 3. So this episode seems to me, at least so far, without going through everything, that it was much more one of the, kind of a binary. You choose a thing, and it immediately locks off the other options. I guess we'll find out in a minute if I'm correct in that. So, first thing we will see is that Stormy Knight, public opinion is still skeptical to androids, but Alice is now officially still at trusted. So I know I was like, I don't know if I was at trusted at the end of the last one, but I was like, she was starting to like me. And so now she officially trusts me, obviously, because I have protected her and saved her. So we'll go from there and see. Let's see what the world stats are on this one. So
she grabbed your hand on the bus, right?
She did. Yep. She grabbed my hand and I held her hand too. Yeah. So dinner's ready. Wait on Todd and Alice. Todd gets mad. This was the first binary
Todd
choice.
gets mad.
So right out of the gate, it shows you there was the chance where I could have just stood there and not done anything. And so at first I did think that was a choice.
Where?
Because it says Todd gets mad and there's either break programming.
Oh, yeah. You didn't have to break your programming. Right.
So the cool
and that would have...
I was about to say this, but then it ended up I ended up not saying it based on the way it played out, which is actually very well done in the game, was that initially fuck Todd, you're right. Todd did get really mad. So at first I was like, oh man, okay, I don't have to do anything. That's kind of cool that they're giving me the option, like, do I want to fight against or not? And then when all the crazy break programming kind of gameplay mechanics shit started happening, in my head, right before I said anything, because I was about to say, oh, that's cool that they gave me the choice to do nothing or listen or to break programming, it reminded me back to that moment in the last episode when he was like, stay in the fucking car, Connor. And then I was like, fuck, is this one of those things where I was presented with this fake, ability
fake choice, right?
Right. A fake
Which I think that was a fake choice, the one to Connor to get out of the car.
Remember, I sat there for at least 3 minutes or something while we just kind of talked through it. And then nothing.
But this was a real choice.
This was an actual choice. So it's cool that for a minute.
And I do love that, by the way, you could have decided that you were going to play Kara as like, no, fuck that. I'm sticking to my programming no matter what.
Right. Or let's see
that would have taken the story in a different.
Let's see how it plays out. Let's see what Todd's going to do. So that's pretty cool. So that shows why there's an entire, choice of options that only would have happened had I decided to just fucking stand there and I guess watch fucking Alice get beat up, which that kind of sucks. But
you and 97% of the world decided, no, fuck that.
Shit. Right.
Fuck Todd.
So I guess the one
Todd.
The one argument I could make on that could be, unless this is what they want, which is very possible that's what they wanted based upon this story being about kind of breaking programming and becoming kind of deviant and shit like that. It would have been more maybe interesting if they created a situation that was a little bit more like kind of questionable or nebulous on like, should I listen or not? Like if he was like, if you fucking move, I'll beat her ass even worse, right? So now you're like, fuck, okay. So do I have to think about this? Like, do I not, like if I move, do I make it worse for Alice? Or do I say, fuck you, Todd, I'm going for it anyway, right? Like, that kind of could have been better storytelling because then it would have forced it to maybe be closer to 50-50.
So remember though that might have been maybe served a different kind of gameplay purpose. Right. But as far as storytelling goes, the purpose of this mission appears to me to be right. It's the breaking point. Shit got bad, and you actually have to bust out. He wanted you. David Cage's storytelling was before you saw that this happened. Kind of like you observed that this probably is kind of what happened. You started to hypothesize or theorize that this is what happened with the other deviant. That it got so bad, the situation got so bad that he broke programming.
Right.
That he wanted you to live through the breaking of the program. I think that is the intended thing here, and you could choose to go another route, but.
Right. I hear you on that. I guess the only other argument I would be is if you wanted to go the Telltale route, where the end game is we want you to break your programming anyway. What they could have done is say, if you fucking move, I'll break her arm. I'll break her arm instead of just yelling at her or something like that. Right now, I have a decision to make. Like, okay, do I believe him or not? Do I want to break my programming? Do it now? Whatever. Let's say I choose not to break my. Let's say I don't go the CraigMakk route and say fuck you, Todd. Let's say I decide to listen and be like, maybe this is what makes it worse for her is if I fucking go, if I go crazy, then he goes in and beats the shit out of her. Maybe I stay chill, then he goes in and let's say he straight up just fucking cold cocks like Alice right in the face. The point is, now I am going to go deviant anyway because now I'm like, you fucking liar, Todd. You piece of shit.
Gotcha.
You pushed me to break anyway, but now I have to live with the fact that because I chose to not act earlier, You fucked
Oh,
her
you got
up
the
even
little girl
worse.
actually hurt.
It's like,
Gotcha.
right. So I think like again, and I'm not trying to say like, hey, look at me, I'm a better storyteller than David Cage, but like kind of, hey, look at me, I'm a better storyteller than David Cage. Like that would be a cool way to create create tension that there would still be probably like I'm not gonna lie that I probably still would have made the same decision. I probably still would have said fuck this guy because I already decided I hated Todd. But like there are people that would play it differently, and then they would have to live with that reaction of I tried to do what seemed right for the character I was playing, and now shit has gone down this other path for me, which led to the same outcome, but other things that took place in the middle. And it's like it's weird when you get to the point where it's like 97% of people said break programming. Well, then just fucking make it be where like that's a thing we have to do, just like you made Connor.
I don't have a problem with him saying this is the choice. This is the main storyline. This is what I want you to pick. But you know, in the interest of free will, here's like if you decide to like just sit there like a fucking idiot.
I'm not saying it's bad.
While
I'm just
he's
saying it
wailing
been,
on this kid.
I think it would have been better to do it the
other
other way. I think to create more of a reason why somebody would not break programming could have been a better told moment, and it could have led to people having vastly different stories that were equally devastating in their own way. And again, I'm not like I said. I mean, I was kind of joking before when I said I'm not saying I'm a better storyteller than David Cage, but I'm a better storyteller than David Cage. I'm just saying if you're going to give these types of major moments, like this isn't just like, oh, do you fucking turn on the light right away or do you not, right? This is what is supposed to be a major fucking moment for Kara where she fucking decides to break programming. And if you make it so acutely obvious that this is the moment, this is the breaking moment for her, like where everyone's going to do it, it means maybe you could have built up to it a little bit better. And again, it doesn't mean that that's better or worse. I'm just saying if you're going for nuance, go for nuance. If you're going for like fucking on the nose, then just be a fucking on the nose storyteller, and that's okay. But it would have been to me more interesting if he had been like if he gave you like 2 or 3 chances to break, and you almost had to be like, fuck, okay, now I'm on the second chance. Is this the fucking chance? Like, do I fuck up now? Or, like, maybe he'll calm the fuck down if I calm down. If I don't fucking, you know, if I do what he tells me to do, maybe he'll fucking calm down. Oh, shit, now he went crazy. Now I finally realize, to your point you were talking about before, when does it become intolerable? This was only one chance for it to become intolerable, and we just had to choose yes or no. Whereas had he given you, like, maybe 2 or 3 chances for, like, you individually to make the story, like, or to make the distinction, this is the moment it became intolerable, that would be a kind of vastly more interesting conversation for you and I to be having, where you're like, oh shit, that's crazy that you got pissed right away on the first time, because I was kind of like, I was almost like the battered housewife that stuck around the first 2 times and then eventually realized, oh, this motherfucker's crazy, okay, I need to go protect this kid. I'm just saying it's another way to tell it. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it would have been more interesting to me. But
yeah,
it's cool. All right, so let's see. We can move forward from there, unless you have comment on that if you want to say that
nope.
I'm fucking wrong. All right. Break programming. All right, so at that point, Kara becomes deviant. Apparently, that just seems like they line up perfectly because breaking programming leads to that, so it had to be 97%. But there were the chance where I could have reasoned with Todd or gone upstairs. Let's see. All right, so same number of people. So nobody gave a fuck about reasoning with Todd. Everyone said, fuck this motherfucker.
Surprise.
Which, almost, I mean, that seems incredible, right? That you would have, like, if you're going to break your fucking programming, you're not going to go to be like, hey, Todd, everything's going to be okay, Todd. You're going to be okay. Like, everyone was, you were breaking it because you were protecting Alice, which, again, not to beat a dead horse, but I'm like, that just seems almost like I don't know. It would have been interesting to me if they had been like protect Alice or attack Todd. That would have been an interesting like, what is the more important thing to you? Is to be protective or like defensive or offensive? Like, do you try to incapacitate him or protect her? Is more interesting than calm this fucking lunatic down or go protect the kid that you're breaking out of your programming to do. I don't know. Like, it's just again, it to me almost seems like
move to the right, so scroll the screen to the right a little bit. We'll see here.
So get to Alice before. So a lot of people apparently did not. Wow. Okay. So there's a lot of shit you could. So apparently there were 3 things you could have done once you went up. So Kara becomes.
All right. So for me, by the way, one of those when I went through it.
Yeah.
Kara becomes deviant, and then I didn't go upstairs immediately. So maybe I did try to reason with him,
Oh
but
wow.
it says Todd to me. So from the Kara becomes deviant.
Do you jump to the third
The
one?
No, so there's so that the branch that comes right above go upstairs. You see that
Right.
one little line that's right above go upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
That one goes all the way over to that 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one,
Right.
the one that's all the way to your right up top.
Over
And
there.
that one is Todd goes upstairs. And that was me and 43% of people got
Okay,
that.
so you let Todd get upstairs
Yeah.
before you got up there. Okay.
Right. And then I also have go upstairs. I eventually did go upstairs, and then I
Oh,
followed.
you're saying okay. So wait. So you say above Kara becomes deviant. There's the two branches that happen above that. Then there's the third branch that happens, like the second branch that happens.
Yeah, none of that
those
is
two.
checked for me.
And then
But the fourth one that's all the way over there, I had the direct line going to that one,
Gotcha.
and that one is Todd goes upstairs at 43%.
So you became deviant, and then Todd went upstairs before you got
All right,
upstairs.
and
whereas,
then
whereas I got upstairs.
so I had
28%
go upstairs, and it goes all the way to get to Alice after Todd, and me and 73% got to Alice after Todd.
Oh wow.
Whereas
okay.
you got to Alice before Todd.
Okay, so
You were part
28%.
of the 28% that got there first.
Wow. So what will you do? Do you remember what you did? Do you just fucking
No.
walk around trying to figure? Maybe you just went into.
Probably
the
I
wrong
was
room
probably
so many
walking
times?
around. Yeah, I was like going to the wrong room, looking at shit, and probably trying to reason with him. I don't know.
Right.
I don't remember.
Okay, that's already interesting because I mean, remember I was freaking out. I was like, "Fuck! Which one is the fucking room?" Like I was trying to remember because I was trying.
Yeah,
to
and
get
so
up
that might
there.
have been resulted in me like getting there after him. He was already fucking in there yelling, and I busted in probably after the fact.
Okay, that's cool. So it seems like a lot of people went through that because if only less than 30%
Yeah.
of people were able to get up there first,
Right.
that makes sense. All right, so
You scroll a little more to your right.
Did you lock the door then? Oh no, so because that comes off.
No,
when
he
you
was
get to
already
Alice.
in there.
He was already in there. Oh, so,
Right.
so only 13%.
So after
of those
I
people
get to Alice
locked-
after
yeah.
Todd at 73%, I picked defend Alice, which is 80% got to that.
Okay.
So you locked the
Look
door.
at
The
mine.
lock the door
Mine
wasn't
is-
even a choice for
Lock
him.
the door is 13%, and then grab the lamp was 2% of people. It's only 2% of people went for the offensive weapon. And because remember, I immediately said, I was like, there has to be a weapon in here. Like that was the first thing I said.
Yeah.
Is, let me get a fucking weapon. Because in my head, I was like, if she's already breaking her programming to protect this kid, she's fucking all in on like, I'm gonna, I gotta protect this fucking kid. So I was like, I'm not gonna try to like talk shit. Actually, it's funny that the first two things I said is, can I lock the door and where's there a weapon? And then immediately when I talk to her, she's like, he's coming. And it says, do you want to, run away, talk to her, or lock the door? I was like, well, fuck yeah, lock the door. And then grab the lamp. And immediately, so only 2% of people end up grabbing the lamp. And so now we're down into Todd breaks into the bedroom. 3% of people had Todd breaking into the bedroom. So already, this is probably the smallest percentages.
Yeah,
I've had
I'm
to
not
this
on
point.
that. I'm not on that chain at all because my chain is up top.
You're up in the top one, yeah, because he's already.
Yeah,
in
so
there.
mine was Todd goes upstairs. So Todd goes upstairs. I go upstairs. I get to Alice after Todd.
Wake up, Jess.
Let's see. Sorry, no. I was trying to drink this too. Defend Alice was 80%.
Okay.
After get to Alice after Todd. So, and then it was stun Todd. So I managed to stun him. That's a
What'd you use?
34%. I don't know. I don't remember. I thought I remembered grabbing that lamp, but it's not showing in my chain thing. Leave the room at 34%. Todd chases Kara, 34%.
All right. Well, then hold
We
on.
tried-
Then. Let's catch
Okay.
up because I want to catch up to where I am on in the storyline on that. So I have 13% lock the door, 2% grab the lamp, and 3% of that 2% of people break into the bedroom. So now, like I said, this is definitely by far to this point the smallest percentages we've played in on any of the chapters
Right,
that I've
for you,
done.
right.
Like yeah, for me, I've never had anything in the like low single digits of people. So this episode is obviously starting to. I mean, when you have this many choices too, just by nature, things are going to branch out a lot more than when you only have one or two choices, right? So. Then the next thing was defend Alice. That's what you were talking about. That's where I'm at the 80% of people. So when Todd breaks into the bedroom is when I catch back up to you, where you also defended Alice.
Right. Okay.
So that makes sense. Okay, so I had to grab the lamp. So it doesn't necessarily mean. I guess I could have used multiple things because that was a moment where I walked into the room and I locked the door. I could have looked around the room and I just saw the lamp first. I was like, yeah, that looks like something I can do. But remember, he just knocked that out of my hand immediately anyway.
Right.
So it didn't really matter. So your stun was
Well,
probably
you
the
ended
same
up
way I
picking
did.
it back up to stun him. So yeah, we probably both picked up the lamp. That's why I kind of remembered that lamp.
Right, because it says 34% stun Todd. Is that what your number said?
Yes.
Yep. So now we're caught back up to each other's, like the percentages are off of the main number of people again. So it's 34% of people stun Todd, and then leave
this room.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So again, that splits off. So like there were a couple things we could have done once we defended Alice, and a couple of splits that seemed to come off of that. Either leave the room, or we could have gone up into that upper split that I don't know what that is. It could have been maybe.
Right, there was remember there was an unlocked window up there, so we could have gone out the window.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. And then my next one is Todd chases Kara is 34%, same as you, right? Yeah, 'cause that's the only option after that. And then I tried the front door. 23% of people did that.
I tried the front door as well. Yeah, 23, and then I failed to open the door.
Okay, so I opened it with
So
12%.
Me and 10% of people failed to open the front door.
Wait, that's crazy. So there was try to open the front door.
Remember, this is so 34% of the people, period, got to the point where Todd was chasing Kara.
Gotcha. So so 10% of that overall number is now is failing at the door, and only 12% of that overall number is opening the front door.
Really, if you want to get technical, that 10% means that it stands for about 1/3 of the people that got to Todd chases Kara.
Right.
Failed to open the door.
Right.
And yours was.
Right. Mine was 12%, so slightly higher.
Right.
Makes sense. All right. So then the next thing for me. So where did yours go from there? Because you're on the lower chain, so you went down to the bottom.
Right. So then I dropped out. Exactly. I dropped to the bottom, and mine said fight. So I had to fight him again downstairs. So me and 26% of people had to fight him downstairs. So I guess that we joined up from like another branch somewhere. People joined in, got to fight Todd downstairs.
Right.
And then it said escape from Todd.
That's one that comes out of get to Alice before Todd goes to a lower channel that looks like it leads to fighting him downstairs. So that's interesting. Man, I wonder what some of this.
So then, after the fight downstairs, then this is escape from Todd.
All right. So mine was. What was your percentage on that?
Escape from Todd, 26%. It's the same amount who fought him downstairs.
Okay.
So if you fought him downstairs, 100% of those people made it out.
Mine is open front door is 12%, and then catch bus is 38%. So that means of that number, there are people coming from another channel, the other channel, people that got outside maybe through the back door or something like that,
or it could through the window, the unlocked window as well.
Right. So it all comes together. But there's also another option under catch bus.
So that's what I did. I escaped from Todd.
Yep.
So after the fight downstairs, then I escaped from Todd again, and then escaped via the yard. So basically, everybody who fought Todd downstairs escaped from him, got through the yard because it's all 26%, and then caught the bus. So yeah, so you got the added 26% of people who escaped via the yard joined you.
Wait, so you caught the bus also?
Right.
Okay.
So actually, those marry up perfect. So either the people that like you did that successfully opened that front door, that's 12%, and then you add that to the people who failed to open the door and then had to fight him downstairs.
That's 38%. Yep.
That's the additional 26% that came in and made 38%. Right?
So I wonder what the option is below catch bus if you. Like,
I don't know.
Obviously,
I'm sure there's got to be an option somewhere where Todd fucks you up and you never get out.
Right.
I don't know how that goes.
It could be that he catches you out there, or it could be that there's another, like you wave down a car, right? We have no idea. Like it could be anything. And then it looks like,
ultimately, like your end result is Kara and Alice fought their way out, right?
Yep.
I had the same end result.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So
that is okay. So this one is the first one that has gotten me most interested to to potentially not
the
that I'm
actual
going to,
story, right?
but no, not even that. Well, separate from that, this is the first one that is maybe because I'm not going to do it because of the way that we're doing the Ready Player 2 kind of the way our gameplay is taking place. But this is the first time, the chapter that has made me want to replay it and see what different shit I could have done or what other things could have happened. Just because this is the one that seems to dovetail the most, like the things where things were very different based on like if you fucked this up or if you reacted to this differently. Other things were like, yeah, maybe you didn't notice this bloodstain on the wall, or maybe you didn't see this man preaching in the yard or whatever. But for the most part, it was like 85% of the choices were all like things you may have missed, almost like we said, Easter eggs, not necessarily things you couldn't have done. Whereas this one seems like one where you and I could have played this and theoretically could have played it almost completely differently. Like we could have seen this chapter as a completely different story had we done a couple of key different decisions. You would have literally been like, that doesn't even sound like the same game to me. That literally sounds like you played a completely different thing because the stuff that happened to you I didn't see any of that.
Seems
That's
that way.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Especially because there's only Kara and Alice fought their way out. It's a 38% result.
Right. So there's a shitload of people that had
a different, whatever that other.
Well, it seems like the vast majority of people had the other outcome, which is kind of interesting because you would have thought that it would probably be,
the other way. Yeah, I would have thought that. Right.
The end game is probably that they get out. It's just maybe how they get out is different. But it seems like no, maybe. Actually the vast majority of people got caught or never.
With a lot of other games, I would say I would agree with you about like, hey, well, that means they probably got out anyway.
Right.
With this game, I'm not sure.
Right. Well, because this game is different in a lot of ways from like we've talked about Telltale, right? Where Telltale's like the broad strokes are pretty much the same. It's the minor like reactions you have and the relationships you build and that kind of stuff, and they do a really good job of creating the feeling of choice. Although at the end of the game, everything kind of all comes back to the same point, right? It all combines back into a similar decision. It's just kind of the path you took. Whereas this game seems much more similar, and we've talked about it many times before, the whole Heavy Rain, where your fucking character can die in like the third chapter and then they're just done, like you, or even Until Dawn storyline. Right, Until Dawn, right? All of those types of ideas where those games where they're like shit can go wrong.
Is the Inpatient like that too?
It is, yeah, it is. So at least the parts I've seen so far is, dude, when you come down, by the way, when we record next, you're playing that fucking game.
I want to play that. Oh, tell you,
fucking good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Fucking cool. But yeah, so I think this game really does, if nothing else, the biggest thing that Quantic Dream specifically, like when you're talking about David Cage's storytelling, what he really does try to do is focus quite a bit on this idea of the kind of branching narrative, right? You can play a game twice and see almost
two different stories,
like almost a completely different story. In the same way, the only people I think are actually better at it, and I've only seen it a couple times so far, but the only would be like massive games with Until Dawn and Inpatient, where it's literally like those games are when I've talked to people who played the fucking Until Dawn, and they're like, that sounds like you're talking about a different game than me. Like, it doesn't even sound, it's not even like, it's, it doesn't even sound similar after the first 25 minutes, because that dude who was like your hero, that dude who is your hero died for me on the fucking snow lift in on the way in, and I never fucking saw that fucking nerd again, and he's like your fucking superhero. This game is. I'll
tell you what, Craig. I mean, without getting too spoiler, I will say that if that's what you're looking for, that possibility is in this game.
Absolutely.
You can fuck up. You can fuck up, and a character will die in this.
And that's what I was saying. Like, that's what I think this game is so similar to that, because we have played Heavy Rain. We know that guys can die. I do like the idea of that built-in tension. I think this game. Because
I'll go on record saying right now, I got somebody killed in this game. It fucking fucks with me to this day.
Oh, you did, really? Wow.
I did, yeah. One of
Wow.
these major characters got killed, and they didn't have to get killed. But I fucked up.
Okay, that's good to know. That's going to add a lot of tension for me because, like I said, I've been pretty clear that part of the tension of this game is based upon things that I wouldn't have normally given a fuck about have extra tension because I know that David Cage is willing to say somebody can die. So things that I'm like, I'll be fine. In any other game where you'd be like, I'll just let it sit on the screen for a minute while I figure out what I want to do. This one can't necessarily do that.
This one definitely, like,
right.
I was like, and it was disappointing to me story-wise when it happened, but I had nobody to blame but myself.
Right.
And it's not like I really, really like I made a wrong choice, and it got the character killed.
Right. Wow.
So nobody's safe. I understand
cool.
that.
This was an interesting one. I thought this was an interesting episode.
I told you before we played this one offline. I've told you, like, up until now, we've kind of just been approaching these and like, let's see. Yeah, are we both free tonight? We'll play. Right. Yeah, let's play one. Right. We are starting to get to the point of the story where it's no longer going to be like, hey, if we happen to be free, let's just play one of these. Right. Like, you are going to get hooked on this story and start tracking me down. Like, what are you doing tonight? Let's play this motherfucker. I'm like, well, I got no, fuck that. We need to play this motherfucker tonight. I need to know what happens.
Right, right. I'm definitely getting there. It is this one. This one was the first one that picked up on me. I guess my bigger issue now is going to be like, fuck, when are we going to have to start doing 2 at a clip? Because they're only 6 minutes long and we talk for an hour about it. Like, we could maybe mix 2 together and then talk about it. But
hey, if you want to do another one tonight, I'll leave it in your hands. I'm gonna need a break, but
here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to go on record right now. It is 11:20 our time happening right now. I would be all right with concluding this one, saying goodnight to everybody so we can post this one up as its own episode, and then jumping right back into the next one and just getting a second.
I just need to take some garbage out.
Yeah.
And that's not a metaphor, but I need to take some garbage out.
Oh, I definitely thought that was a sex thing.
No.
I assumed that was
what
showers. I thought that was
also, I need another
sex.
beer because I went through this bottle of Goose Island Bourbon County, and whoa.
Yeah. Are you fucked up?
Well, I'm not completely fucked up, but only because I'm an alcoholic. But
that's
it definitely.
Like 2.5
I got a buzz.
Regular beers. So you're.
Yeah, I got a buzz. I got a buzz going. That was like a decent sized bottle or whatever it was. Like 15 and a half of what's the? I don't think it's showing how big the bottle is. How big the bottle?
Oh, is it bigger than your regular?
Oh, it's a pint. It's just a pint.
It was a pint. Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say you were drinking like a bomber of it. I was like, holy fuck, I've never even seen that.
I just had a fucking growler.
I was like, how the fuck are you drinking together right now? Jesus.
Goose Island Bourbon growler.
All right. So on that
note, let's do another one, CraigMakk.
Exactly. I was like, fuck, you're gonna definitely get me killed if you're that drunk. All right. So on that note, we have been doing this for about a little under an hour and 40 minutes. Let's say thank you very much to everyone that's been listening. I think that was a pretty good breakdown. Unless there's anything else you think that you want to bring up about that, I think we touched on. I mean, I think the bigger thing about this episode was the choices unchosen. But maybe one day we'll go back in and maybe see what they are, even if we Google some of them and talk about like, oh man, that's an interesting talk. But that's far down the line. So we're going to say thank you on this episode. We're going to shut it down. And if we do get to another one tonight, that would be perfect. But because I'm super excited to see what happens next.
I'm down for it. Let's do another. Let's do another one. Oh, shit on the button. I have to get another beer from the face.
All right,
Bourbon County, good.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Jess. Go take the garbage out. I know that means sex. It's fine. You don't have to.
Fuck Santa.
Your weird fucking euphemisms.
Take the garbage out, man. I'm gonna
garbage out, motherfucker.
Spit some jizz into a toilet tissue.
Shower sex. All right, I'll talk to you later.
This issue.
Peace.